Be what? Oh, I have no problem with that. Good morning, and welcome to the Universalist Church, in which love is the spirit. We are glad you are here in the sanctuary, or anywhere in the world, especially those visiting or returning after a time away. I am Lisa Smith-Horn, one of your representatives on our Board of Trustees. If you are a visitor, we hope you'll talk with our welcome team or visit our webpage, www.westhartforduu.org, to learn more about us. Our guest book or online contact page will help you get into our electronic mailing list. Our electronic communications are the best way for us to stay connected. We look forward to helping you become part of the Universalist Church. We're in the seasons of colds, flu, and COVID, with more people feeling ill. Masks are always welcome here. If you are unvaccinated or would prefer a mask, our ushers have some that we're happy to share. After worship, we'll have fellowship and Fisk Hall and through Zoom. If you need help finding your way to Fisk Hall for our fellowship hour, any member of the church will be happy to guide you. Just look for someone wearing a Universalist Church name tag. You can find the link for Zoom in your weekly news or on our Breeze calendar. If you aren't getting the weekly news, please sign up for it on our website. And now I invite you to take a moment to make your mobile phone silent, turn off your email, put away your keyboards, and settle in for worship.
know it's a little bit chilly in here this morning. It turns out that we have a small steam leak in our heating system. So we're going to rely on our bodies and our excitement and a few candles to warm up the sanctuary while we're here. I am told that there is somebody coming to work on it. We'll see if that kicks in during the service or not. But if you're at home and warm and comfortable, if you would light your home chalices while we light ours in here, maybe we can generate some warmth everywhere. Usually on the Sunday when we observe Hanukkah here in our congregation, we have our menorah and we light whatever candles are appropriate. But it turns out that Hanukkah doesn't actually start until tonight. So we're not going to light the candles right now because that would be a little weird and a little premature. But we are going to begin by observing that we are a congregation of many different religious backgrounds, many ways of celebrating, many ways of observing what we know to be holy. And so today, as we think about the lessons of Hanukkah, we're also going to say the words that are the prayer for lighting the menorah in anticipation of this evening and to share in this observance together. My pronunciation of Hebrew is terrible. So rather than be the one who absolutely just does a shameful and embarrassing job of it, I'm going to read the words to you in English. Blessed are you, O God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to light the Hanukkah lights. Our opening hymn is number 223 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or in spirit in the sanctuary or wherever you are as we sing together. Number 223, Rock of Ages, Let Our Song. please join me in speaking the words of our affirmation, our covenant. They're printed in your order of service and in the description online. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. So I know that one of the things that's going to happen in our religious education classes today, or at least might happen, is some telling of the Hanukkah story. So for this moment, I want to share with you a different story that has some similar themes. And I know that I've shared this with you all quite a few years ago now, but I think this is one you might enjoy hearing again. There's a book by Lynn Cox, who is a swimmer, a really, really excellent swimmer, but also a lover of the oceans and of the environment. And so she wrote a short little book called Grayson. It's something that maybe you could read together, especially with older children and teens, but this summary I think is good for everybody. This story happened to Lynn when she was 17 years old. She was a swimmer even then, and she used to swim in the ocean pretty much every day. She would train and train and train, go as far as she possibly could. And so while she was out in the ocean one morning, very, very early, she was swimming along and something weird happened. There was a huge disturbance in the water underneath her. She wondered if it was a shark. Fortunately, it was not. Instead, as she was swimming along with this disturbance happening under the water, moving her around, she heard sounds that were not familiar to her. And after a little while, after watching and looking and swimming and listening and feeling, she realized that it was a baby whale. And it was staying very, very close to her. She'd been paying attention to what the ocean was like and to what its creatures were like, and so she realized, too, that it was a baby gray whale. And she was wondering why this whale was staying close to her. Baby whales are still very, very big, in case you did not know. She says this one was like 18 feet long, and that's just a baby, but it was still big enough to shift the water underneath her. But it seemed like it was still young enough to know when it was lost. And so it followed her as she swam, and she had a friend back on shore who was watching her swim. And so at some point she swam back as close as she dared with this whale following and shouted, "Hey, I've got this baby whale following me. I think it's lost. I think it needs its mom, and I don't know how to find it. The ocean is really big. How will I ever find its mother?" And so her friend reached out to the Coast Guard and tried to figure out how on earth they could find a whale mom in the great big ocean. She was afraid that if he kept swimming with her, he would get so lost that he would easily struggle, not find his family, maybe become something that would get eaten by other things like that shark that she was afraid of. So she started to swim and swim and swim, and she got to a place where there was a buoy that she could hang on to if she needed to, that was close to where the gray whales were all swimming together. She hoped that Grayson would follow her out there, and maybe, just maybe, that if they waited long enough, Grayson would hear his mother and reunite with her. She swam for miles and miles and miles, and then she waited for a long, long time. And she writes this little passage about what it was like to wait. I told myself to wait for 5 minutes. And when 5 minutes passed, I asked myself again, how much longer should I wait? And the answer came to me. Wait as long as you need to. Because the waiting is as important as the doing. It's the time you spend training and the rest in between. It's painting the subject and the spaces in between. It's the reading and then thinking about what you've read. It's all the written words, what is said and what is left unsaid. It's the space between the thoughts on the page that makes the story. It's the space in between the notes, the intervals between fast and slow that makes the music. It is the love of being together, the spacing apart, the tension when you are further away that brings you back together. Now, if you want to know how this story ends, and I know I would want to, you need to read the book. I'm not going to spoil it for you. You might have to wait just a little while to find out. But I can tell you that much like the story of Hanukkah, it ends with a bit of a miracle. And so today, our 1st through 5th graders will go to their class in the program center on this floor. It's basically behind the sanctuary as you walk through the hallway. It's the room with the clouds painted on the back wall. Everybody else will go to the normal classes. Parents, if you will pick your 1st through 5th graders up in the program center, that will be a great help. All right, let's join together in singing our children and their teachers to their classes. The words for the song are printed in the order of service. We will keep a place for you wherever you may go. We'll sustain this home of faith and love you've come to know. Go in peace, bring hope to hearts that yearn. We will keep a place for you till you return. Our offering, the sharing of our resources for our shared work as a religious community, is a spiritual practice for us. By offering your time and talent and treasure to this community, you help us serve our members, our friends, and the wider community of this congregation. And so, as part of that service, we share our general offering each week with organizations that do work in the world that brings us ever closer to creating the beloved community. They do the things that we, perhaps in this church, can't necessarily do on our own, but we are happy to help make it possible elsewhere. And so this month we share our offering with Interval House. Founded in 1977 in the basement of a Hartford church by women who wanted to help those who were suffering in silence, Interval House is the largest agency in the state of Connecticut dedicated to ending domestic violence. Interval House has long been committed to empowering its clients, providing a nurturing and encouraging environment for the victims of domestic violence to heal and acquire the tools to move forward. Interval House offers immediate and compassionate support to about 6,500 victims of domestic violence per year in 24 cities and towns, both east and west of the Connecticut River, all at no charge. To give electronically to our offering today, please use the QR codes on your order of service, the links in the description, or those on our website to make your donation to our offering. Here in the sanctuary, our offering will now be gratefully received. May these gifts, so generously given, sustain the life of this community, the work we do together, and everything that we can make happen in the wider world of which we are a part. Thank you. Thank you. Our congregational reading this morning is number 630 in the back of the gray hymnal. Number 630. The title is The Feast of Lights. I'll speak the words in Roman type, and we'll speak together the words in italics. Please rise in body or in spirit as we speak together. Kindle the taper like the steadfast star. And add each night till a luster till afar. Clash, Israel, the cymbals, and touch the lyre. Chant psalms of victory till the heart take fire. Let's join in singing our doxology. Praise God for love we all may share. Praise God for beauty everywhere. Praise God for hope of good to be. Praise God for truth that makes us free. Please be seated. As we begin our time of prayer this morning, I have something to share with you on behalf of Julia and Ray G. Julia's parents were in a serious car accident, and it appears that her dad has had surgery and her mom is under observation right now. She and her brother are on their way to be with them. It sounds like it's going to take some serious recovery and some good medical care. So Julia and Ray appreciate your prayers and your concerns. I don't know that they need an outpouring of contact immediately, but certainly cards and well wishes, I'm sure, are welcome. And they'll keep us informed as to what's happening, I'm sure, too. Please join with me in a moment of prayer. Spirit of justice and love, Spirit that exists in each of us and among us and beyond us too. We offer our thanks for every way in which you move throughout the world. Through our acts of compassion and those of others to us. Through acts of grace and mercy that bring us closer to creating true good. Through the choices and decisions that our leaders make when they fall in line with the long arc of the universe, bending beautifully toward justice. And in particular, we can be grateful for leaders when they make this state a safer place for queer families and trans people, particularly trans children, those seeking reproductive health care of many kinds. We can be grateful for all those who do the work of strengthening democracy, here within the congregation and beyond it as well. What we learn from Judaism as one of the sources of our faith is that to change the world for the better is a sacred act, a mitzvah, a blessing, but also tikkun olam, repairing the world. Justice is not just a secular task, but a holy one, part of what the divine asks of us individually and together. And therefore, in this moment, reminded by Hanukkah, We celebrate the efforts of those among us who have fought and prayed and taught and talked, hoping to change the world. And we know, too, that with all the ways the world must change, that the work is not yet done. So let us pledge ourselves, each, to the work that we can do, knowing none of us can do it all, but that together we may change the world for each and every one of us, so that everyone can live in a world in which we thrive, in which we are blessed, in which we have all that we need to connect with the deepest parts of ourselves and the most wonderful parts of everything beyond us, too. Let us take a moment in stillness for our own prayers now. In this moment, may we offer our gratitude for and commitment to the ongoing work of the repair of the world. May we learn ever more deeply what justice means and how we can create it, how we can make love real among us, beyond us. May we find our hearts opened wide enough to discover that we can create paradise for one another upon this earth, that there is no limit to the love that we can share, to the love that we can make real for each and every and all. May it be so. Amen.
Our first reading is from the Reconstructionist Hanukkah Challenge, What Stories Will You Tell? By Brian Schwartzman. Who doesn't love Hanukkah? Lighting candles, eating scrumptious jelly donuts, opening presents, inflating dreidels, taking up entire lawns. Yet, Hanukkah isn't just play. It is a conversation between the past, present, and future. Tradition also holds that Jewish individuals and families tell and retell the story behind the candles. Each of us is invited to seriously explore issues of militarism and assimilation, universalism, and particularism. No more isms, okay? Woo. One could argue that the entire history of the holiday and its observance demonstrates the Reconstructionist understanding that Judaism is the evolving religious civilization of the Jewish people. Reconstructionist thought also places a high value on upholding inherited traditions. If a tradition or observance no longer speaks to us, the Reconstructionist impulse isn't to discard it. Instead, we are urged to try and wrest new meaning from it. Our sages did this 2 millennia ago. They radically reimagined the holiday's meaning. In a famous Talmudic section from Tractate Shabbat, the rabbis asked, "What is Hanukkah?" Their answer flipped the script. The festival wasn't about human might, but about the miracle of the oil lighting the menorah for 8 days. Our second reading is from those ancient sages wrote in the Babylonian Talmud, "What is Hanukkah?" Our rabbis taught, beginning on the 25th day of Kislev are 8 days of celebration on which mourning and fasting are prohibited. Because when the Hellenists entered the sanctuary, they defiled all the oil that was found there. When the Maccabees triumphed, they looked for the oil to light the eternal flame and only found one container with the seal of the high priest intact, indicating that it was kosher and fit for use in the temple. The vial contained enough oil for only 1 day, but a miracle occurred, and they were able to keep it lit for 8 days from that container. The following year, those 8 days were established as a holiday that includes poems of praise and thanksgiving.
the answer came to me: wait as long as you need to. This may be one of the more honest and difficult pieces of wisdom that I've seen. Wait as long as you need to. I don't know about you, but hearing that just makes me want to cry out sometimes. I'm still waiting, you know? I am so much more patient than I ever thought possible. If I wait much longer, I might just have to give up. But when it is that there is something so important, so worth waiting for, there is no choice but to do what we can and then wait. We wait for the birth of a baby, for job offers, or retirements, or sometimes layoffs. We wait for test results and for holidays. We wait for our loved ones to come home, perhaps a gray whale mother. Or we wait for the first snowfall or the last snowfall, for days of peace, for days of celebration. Sometimes we wait for the day when we have everything that we could possibly need, when the world is just as it should be, when the circumstances are right. We sit in anticipation, in uncertainty, preferably with a great big dose of hope and trust to get us through. I imagine the Maccabees, after their long, hard struggle against the Greeks who had taken over their temple, finally, they're preparing it for worship once again. They rebuilt the altar, they dedicated it with songs and prayers, with offerings and music. They decorated the front of the temple, they restored its sacred rooms, they put in place a new lampstand, and all they found, after doing all of that work, was a single measure of oil with which to light that lamp. And so they used it, and then they waited to see if the last portion of oil they could find would run out before the new oil was prepared. They did all they could, and then they went on doing the necessities of life while the question of the oil occupied their hearts and their minds. Imagine this story as it's actually happening. Imagine, for example, a space like this. A Jewish temple is not exactly like this, and that temple in particular was not really all that much like this, but we know this space. So imagine this space needing to be cleaned, needing to be rebuilt, needed to be scrubbed to remove the occupation of some group of people who wasn't us and who didn't care about it the way we do. And at the same time, while all of this is happening in this space, back in Fisk Hall, there are people doing their very best to make everything normal again. Cooking dinner, taking care of the children. Some people going out into the world to jobs, earning money so that they could get the things that were necessary to help rebuild the temple. Some of us washing clothes. We, in fact, have a washer and dryer back in Fisk Hall, if you didn't know it. I imagine people doing all of those things that are part of everyday survival, and also imagining and preparing for a new future. And in the midst of all of this work, the daily parts of life, moving around, getting things done, in the back of everyone's mind, they're wondering, how much longer can this possibly go on? How long can we really wait? Is it even remotely possible that this is going to end well? Every day feels like forever. And we're stressed and tired and uncertain. How much longer should I wait? Wait as long as you need to. This Hanukkah story seems especially relevant to me these days because there are so many ways in which we have seen desecrations of things that we value, things that should be sacred. Democracy, safety in schools and public places and grocery stores, and even occasionally houses of worship. Our planet, falling prey to very predictable oil spills, like in this past week, from pipelines, as well as just the accumulation of years of failing to be good stewards of our planet and our resources, resulting in climate change. We have a lot to clean up and repair. And this work is ours to do for our temple, our world. Our covenants, after all, don't just apply to our sanctuaries. The affirmation that we speak definitely speaks to who we are together, but our benediction that we speak, that's part of who we are too. And that talks about how we are out in the world. We don't seek the sacred only in this building. We don't have a holy of holies somewhere here that's even more special than this, where some of us get to go and nobody else does. This is our sacred space. And Fisk Hall, where we live and play and talk, is our sacred space. And every classroom for our children, every storage room for our food ministry, every office where people do the work of the church, whether volunteers or staff, all of these are our sacred spaces. And these are sacred spaces that help us remember that everything beyond these walls and doors is equally sacred. Whether you call it God or good, the all that is, we find it here and out there too. We speak of the worth and dignity of all people, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, the goal of world community with peace and liberty and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of existence. We say love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. And knowing all of that, I wish the temple that is our earth could be rededicated, made sacred once again by a miracle, by waiting 8 days to see if our lamp will remain lit. But instead, it takes work. It takes our effort. It takes democracy and advocacy. It takes teaching our children and one another to see each other as real, whole people. It takes finding wonder and meaning in nature. It takes the understanding that everything and everyone is diminished when we act in ways that dishonor the glory of creation, the wonder of our existence. And we understand this here in this space in one way. And I understand that other people in other spaces understand all of that in other ways too. Some of us have preferences for parties and politics and policies. And in other places, people have different perspectives. And in this one, certainly, for as many people as there are in this room, there are at least half again as many other ways of thinking. We are not a people all of one mind. And that's okay. Across our differences, but within our covenants, our promises as Unitarian Universalists, all of those things call us to do what the Maccabees did: clear out what doesn't belong, act to make the sacred real in the places that we value, to rededicate the temple, whether the temple is the temple of ourselves or our families, our church, our community, our nation, our world. It is to bring the sacredness back into our awareness and into everywhere we go, everywhere we are. And boy, wouldn't it be nice if it happened by a miracle. But here's the thing. In the Hanukkah story, the miracle is not a snap of your fingers and everything's fine. The miracle still takes 8 days. And for us, this is true too. Because we deal with election cycles and public votes and changing opinions and conversations. Moving issues forward can take years. Cultural change requires work in the moment and a long-term vision. And while we wait for the world to become what we think it should be, we actually have to do the things that will help us get there. And so I imagine the Maccabees saying these words, and then I imagine them easily coming out of my mouth. How much longer can this imperfection be? How long can we wait? Is it truly possible that all of this will end well? How much longer should I wait? Wait as long as you need to. The task of these ancient holidays is to remind us in story and in symbol that impossible tasks can be done and are worth doing. There's this gigantic task of rededicating, rebuilding the temple, clearing away the garbage. But that's something that we can do. That's something that each of us can do. Scrubbing the floor clean is today's task. Setting the lamps upright, maybe that's tomorrow's task. Building new chairs, creating new spaces, that can be the day after. And while all that's happening, we still have to cook dinner and earn some money, teach our children, and take good care of one another. As much as we wish that everything was perfect right now, it's not. And change takes time. So we do what we can, and then we wait. And this is the lesson that Hanukkah and Advent both share. That waiting is part of living. It's not the part that we have to gloss over. It's not like in a movie where we see a montage of things happening to get us from here over to here and suddenly everything's great again. Imagine if you lived in montages and half of your life passed away in flashes with a little bit of music behind it. You would miss so much. The waiting is as important as the doing. It's the time you spend training and the rest in between. It's painting the subject and the spaces in between. It is the reading and the thinking about what you've read. It's the written words, what is said, what is left unsaid, the space between the thoughts on the page that makes the story. It's the space between the notes, the intervals between fast and slow that makes the music. It's the love of being together and the spacing and the tension of being apart that brings you back together. Imagine music with no silence. Imagine working out without any time to let your muscles relax. Imagine worship with only a minister talking at you for an entire hour, without any break, without any relief, without any silence. It would be too much. When every moment is full, we cannot make sense of what is happening. And so sometimes we wait, and the waiting is good. So, in these times of observation and celebration, let us remind ourselves that now is the time to prepare, perhaps to clean and to decorate in order to welcome guests into our homes in a festive spirit. Perhaps it's to empty ourselves of the holiday madness in order to find deepest peace. Perhaps to develop a new and hopeful vision for yourself and the communities that you love. In all of those times, they require the waiting. So may our stories remind us to prepare, to do what we can, and then wait, and to find value in the waiting. As we wait for the hope of good to come, while we make as much good as we can together right here and right now. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 391 in the gray hymnal. Number 391. It's called Voice Still and Small. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. Let us speak together part of our covenant. It's our unison benediction, and it's in your order of service or the description online. Engage with the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Please be seated and remain for our postlude. Parents of 1st through 5th graders, please remember you're going to the program center on this floor to pick up your kids. Thank you.